I stared at the elegant calligraphy that reduced my entire existence to 3 words: wife of son, no birth date, no maiden name, not even my first name, Emery, which I'd always thought was distinctive enough to remember. Just wife of son, floating beneath my husband's branch of the Fox family tree like forgotten punctuation. Isn't it magnificent? Monica's voice dripped with the same artificial sweetness she'd perfected over the 12 years I'd known her. The genealogist traced our lineage back 6 generations. Pure bloodlines, you know. I forced myself to smile, gripping my mimosa glass so tightly I worried it might shatter. The pre-anniversary brunch crowd buzzed around us in Monica's marble-floored conservatory, cooing over the massive family tree display that would be the centerpiece of next week's golden anniversary celebration. It's something, I managed, though I noticed my family's history isn't included. Monica's perfectly lined lips twitched. Well, dear, we tried, but your background is so unverifiable. Better to focus on what we know for certain, don't you think? Unverifiable. Right. Because apparently my father's 30 years as a high school history teacher and my mother's immigrant parents didn't qualify as notable enough for the precious Fox family records. Mom, it looks amazing. Dante appeared beside me, placing his hand on my lower back. Too little, too late. Though maybe we could add Emery's full name at least. Oh, darling. Monica patted his cheek. The calligrapher has already finished. We wouldn't want to disturb the aesthetic. Besides, this is about celebrating your father's and my journey. Speaking of which, she turned to address the room. Everyone, please gather round. I watched my husband's spine straighten automatically at his mother's command, his hand dropping from my back. Some habits die hard, especially when they're drilled into you from birth. As you know, Monica projected her voice across the conservatory, next weekend marks 50 years since Lyle and I began our legacy, and what a legacy it is. She gestured to the family tree. From the noble achievements of Isaiah Barnes in the Civil War era to the present day, the Fox name has stood for excellence, integrity, and impeccable breeding. My 8-year-old daughter, Alice, tugged at my sleeve. Mommy, why isn't your name on the tree? Because Grandma's I caught myself. Because sometimes grown-ups make silly mistakes, sweetheart. Dante, Monica called out, tell everyone about the special toast you'll be giving at the ceremony. I turned to my husband. Toast? He shifted uncomfortably. I was going to tell you. Mom asked me to speak about family traditions. And values, Monica added. The importance of maintaining certain standards. The mimosa turned bitter in my mouth. I'd spent 12 years swallowing these little daggers, telling myself they didn't matter. 12 years of watching my daughter slowly being molded into their image of propriety and privilege. Excuse me, I muttered, heading for the powder room. Inside, I gripped the marble counter and met my own eyes in the gilt-edged mirror. A knock startled me. Em? You okay? It was Elise, my best friend, and the only reason I hadn't lost my mind at these family gatherings. I opened the door, pulling her inside. Did you see it? The family tree? Yeah, she grimaced. Real subtle, that mother-in-law of yours. Though as a genealogist, I have to say, wait, I grabbed her arm. You're a genealogist. Last time I checked. Why? A plan started forming in my mind. How hard would it be to research someone's actual family history? I mean, beyond the sanitized version they want everyone to see? Elise's eyes widened. What are you thinking? Monica wants to celebrate bloodlines? Fine. Let's give her exactly what she wants. I pulled out my phone. I have some names and dates, starting with the great Isaiah Barnes himself. This is going to end badly, Elise warned, but she was already reaching for her own phone. When do we start? Now. I straightened my shoulders, hearing Monica's laughter float through the door. They want to erase me? Fine. But first, I'm going to show them exactly what it means to air out a family's dirty laundry. Back in the conservatory, Monica was still holding court, champagne glass raised. "To family," she declared. I lifted my own glass, meeting her eyes across the room. "To truth," I whispered, and for the first time in 12 years, I meant every word I said to that woman. "Holy shit," Elise whispered, her face illuminated by her laptop screen. "Em, you need to see this." We were huddled in her home office 3 days after the brunch, surrounded by stacks of printed documents and empty coffee cups. The rain outside matched my mood, dark and ready to break. "What did you find?" I leaned over her shoulder, squinting at the archived newspaper article from 1872. "Your beloved Isaiah Barnes, the great patriarch Monica won't shut up about?" Elise pointed to the headline. He wasn't Isaiah Barnes at all. His real name was Isaac Blackwood, and he was wanted in 3 states for fraud. My heart started racing. What kind of fraud? The worst kind. He posed as a doctor, sold fake medicines to desperate people. Some died. Elise scrolled through the article. Then he vanished overnight, leaving behind a wife and 2 kids. Popped up 6 months later in another state as Isaiah Barnes, married another woman, and started the noble fox lineage Monica's so proud of. I sank into the chair beside her. A bigamist con man who killed people with fake medicine. That's their precious patriarch. Gets better. Elise pulled up another document. The only reason he avoided prison was that he bribed local officials, used the money he stole from his victims to buy himself a clean slate and a fancy new identity. My phone buzzed, Dante calling again. I ignored it, just like I'd been ignoring his texts, asking where I was spending all my time lately. "Monica paid thousands to have this family tree researched," I said. "There's no way they didn't find this stuff." "Oh, they found it." Elise opened her email. "My contact at the genealogy firm confirmed it. Monica specifically requested they exclude any unpleasant discoveries from the final report. Paid extra for the sanitized version." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So my actual documented family history is unverifiable, but they actively buried their own criminal ancestry?" "Pretty much." Elise turned to face me. What exactly are you planning to do with all this?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Alice's bedtime FaceTime call. I answered, trying to sound normal. "Hi, baby. Ready for bed?" "Mommy, when are you coming home? Daddy made pasta, but it wasn't as good as yours." My throat tightened. "Soon, sweetheart. Mommy's just working on a special project." "Is it for Grandma's party? She came over today and said we're all going to dress up like princesses." I met Elise's concerned gaze. "Something like that. Sweet dreams, baby. I love you." After hanging up, I stared at the scattered papers around us. My father's voice echoed in my memory. "Truth matters, Emmy, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then." "We need to dig deeper," I told Elise. "Court records, property deeds, everything. If Monica wants to talk about legacy, let's show everyone exactly what that legacy is built on." Elise hesitated. "I'm all for exposing lies, but this could blow up your whole life. Your marriage, Alice's relationship with her grandparents." "You mean the grandparents who are teaching her that appearance matters more than honesty? That it's okay to erase people who don't fit your narrative?" I grabbed another file. "Besides, my marriage?" I laughed bitterly. Dante's spent 12 years watching his mother slowly delete me from family history. He can spend the next 12 dealing with actual history. Elise sighed but turned back to her computer. "There's a courthouse archive in Springfield that might have the original trial records. We could drive up tomorrow." "Perfect." I pulled up the anniversary party schedule on my phone. Monica's giving her big speech about family heritage at 8. That gives me exactly 15 minutes after to present my own version of the Fox family story. "You're going to do this at the actual anniversary party? In front of everyone?" "Where else? Monica invited half the city's elite. If she wants an audience for her lies, she can have an audience for the truth too. My phone buzzed again, a text from Monica this time. Darling, don't forget your fitting tomorrow. The photographer wants all family members in coordinating colors. Though perhaps cream isn't your best shade? I showed Elise the message. See? Death by 1,000 cuts. Well, I've got something better than color coordination. What's that? I held up the newspaper article about Isaiah's victims. I've got receipts. As if on cue, thunder cracked outside. Elise jumped, then laughed nervously. Okay, that was creepy. Like the ghost of Isaiah Barnes himself is watching. Good. I started organizing the documents into folders. Let him watch. Let them all watch. In 1 week, the Fox family's perfect image is going to shatter like the fake glass house it is. And then what? I thought about Alice, about my father's integrity, about 12 years of subtle humiliation. Then we see what grows in the ruins. Your mother was a freedom rider? Elise gaped at the black and white photograph I'd spread across her dining room table. How did I not know this? Because unlike some people, my family doesn't broadcast their history like it's a marketing campaign. I traced my finger over my mother's young face in the Civil Rights March photo. She never wanted recognition. She just did what was right. We'd spent the past 5 days building 2 family trees. One was mine, real, raw, and human. The other was the true Fox family history, complete with court documents proving Isaiah's crimes. My phone chimed with Monica's latest text. Final guest list confirmed. Senator Williams and his wife, the Richardsons from the Arts Foundation, and Judge Patterson's entire family. Do try to be punctual, dear. Senator Williams? Elise whistled. That's some high-profile audience you'll be dropping this bomb on. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Dante's voice called out, Em? Your car's outside. I quickly gathered the documents while Elise intercepted him in the hallway. Hey, stranger, just helping Em with some research. Research? Dante appeared in the doorway, looking tired. Is that what's keeping you out until midnight every day? Alice keeps asking for you. The guilt hit hard, but I steeled myself. I'm preparing something special for your parents' anniversary. Mom said you haven't confirmed your toast yet. She's getting anxious. Oh, I'll give a toast, all right. I met his eyes. One they'll never forget. He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I once found endearing. Em, please, whatever you're planning, can't you just play nice for one night? Play nice? I slammed my folder shut. Like your mother played nice when she excluded my entire existence from your family history? Like she plays nice every time she undermines my parenting or makes snide comments about my background? She's trying her best. No, she's not, my voice cracked. And you know what's worse? You've never once truly stood up to her. Not once in 12 years. Dante stepped back like I'd slapped him. That's not fair. I always support you. Really? I pulled out my phone and showed him Monica's text about the cream-colored dress. Did you support me last week when she made that crack about my complexion not suiting the family photos? Oh, wait, you were too busy laughing with your sister about it. It was just a joke. Everything's just a joke to you, Dante. Everything's just mom being mom. Well, guess what? I'm done laughing. Elise cleared her throat. I'll give you 2 a minute. No need. I gathered my things. I'm leaving anyway. Got more research to do. Wait. Dante caught my arm. What's this really about? Talk to me. I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face. The face I fell in love with before I understood what loving him would cost. You want to know what this is about? Come to the anniversary party. Pay attention during my toast. You'll learn exactly what your family's about. I pulled away and headed for the door, but his next words stopped me. Mom's right, isn't she? You're trying to cause trouble. I turned slowly. No, Dante. I'm trying to tell the truth. Something your mother wouldn't recognize if it wore one of her precious cream-colored dresses. Back in my car, I called Alice's babysitter and asked for a video chat with my daughter. Mommy! Alice's face filled the screen. I learned all about great-great-grandpa Isaiah today. Grandma showed me pictures of his big house and said he was a hero. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Did she now? Well, baby, sometimes people aren't exactly what they seem. Sometimes the real heroes are the ones nobody talks about. Like who? I thought about my mother marching for justice, my immigrant grandparents working double shifts to fund my father's teaching degree. Like your other great-grandparents, would you like to hear about them? Yes, tell me everything. So I did. I told her about her great-grandmother who fought for equality, her great-grandfather who taught history to underprivileged kids for 4 decades. I told her about courage that didn't need marble mansions or fancy parties to prove its worth. When I finished, Alice was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, Mommy, why isn't that on the big family tree? Because some people are afraid of real stories, sweetheart. They prefer pretty lies. That's silly, she declared with 8-year-old certainty. Yes, I agreed, thinking of the documents in my folder, of Monica's carefully curated guest list, of all the truth about to burst into the open. Yes, it is silly, but don't worry, Mommy's about to fix that. The anniversary weekend arrived with all the subtlety of a Broadway production. Monica had transformed the country club ballroom into what she called a heritage celebration, complete with enlarged historical photos and that damned family tree centerpiece. Welcome, welcome, Monica air-kissed guests as they arrived, her cream-colored gown practically glowing under the chandeliers. Senator, so delighted you could join us. Judge Patterson, you remember my son Dante and his wife. I forced a smile, the USB drive in my clutch feeling like a loaded gun. Elise had helped me prepare a presentation that would follow Monica's own family tribute. All I had to do was swap the drives during dinner. Mommy, my shoes hurt, Alice whispered, tugging at my hand. I know, baby. Just a little longer. I'd fought with Monica about Alice's uncomfortable formal shoes, but lost, as usual. There's my girl, Monica swooped in, pulling Alice away. Come, darling, let's show everyone how beautifully you can recite the family motto. I started to object, but Dante touched my elbow. Let it go, Em. It's her big night. Everything's her big night, I muttered, but fell silent as Monica clinked her glass for attention. Beloved friends and family, she began. Tonight we celebrate not just 50 years of marriage, but 5 generations of excellence. Our story begins with the remarkable Isaiah Barnes. I watched the crowd lean in, entranced by Monica's practiced charm. Even the senator nodded appreciatively as she described Isaiah's entrepreneurial spirit and medical innovations. If only they knew he was innovating ways to poison people, Elise whispered beside me. They will, I whispered back. Soon, Monica's voice swelled with pride. Isaiah Barnes built a legacy of integrity that flows through our veins. His principles guide us, his courage inspires us. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Just a small sound, but in the perfectly orchestrated quiet it carried. Monica's eyes found mine, sharp as daggers. Something amusing, dear? No, I said. Please, continue telling us about integrity. A muscle twitched in her jaw, but she recovered smoothly. As I was saying, family is everything. Speaking of which, Dante has prepared a special toast about our traditions. My husband stood, straightening his tie. Thank you, Mother. You know, growing up in this family taught me the importance of... I tuned him out, scanning the room instead. The senator checking his watch, the judge's wife adjusting her pearls. All these powerful people gathered to celebrate a lie. And now, Monica announced after Dante finished, a tribute video I've prepared highlighting our journey through the years. This was my cue. I'll help with the technical setup, I offered sweetly. Monica hesitated, then nodded. How thoughtful. At the AV station, I quickly swapped the drives while pretending to adjust cables. My hands shook slightly, but the switch was clean. Ladies and gentlemen, Monica raised her glass as the lights dimmed. To family, to legacy, to truth. To truth, I echoed, sitting back down. The presentation began normally enough. Old photos, dates, achievements. Then, exactly 8 minutes in, everything changed. The screen flickered. Suddenly, instead of Monica's carefully selected images, there was a newspaper headline, "Wanted, Isaac Blackwood for criminal fraud." Monica's champagne glass crashed to the floor. What is this? More headlines appeared. Court documents, police reports, the dual marriage certificates proving Isaiah's bigamy. "Turn it off," Monica commanded, but I had already locked the system. The room fell silent as victim testimonies scrolled past. Women and children dead from Isaiah's fake medicines. Families bankrupted by his schemes. "This is outrageous," Monica's voice shook. This is slander." "Actually," I stood up, my voice carrying clearly, "it's all public record. Your precious Isaiah Barnes was a con man who killed innocent people, and you knew. You paid to hide it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The senator was already heading for the door. "How dare you?" Monica advanced on me, face contorted. "You ungrateful, spiteful—" "Grateful for what?" I cut her off. "For erasing me? For teaching my daughter that appearance matters more than truth? For making your son too weak to stand up to you?" "Emery," Dante started, but I held up my hand. "No, you don't get to speak right now. None of you do. For 12 years, I've listened to you glorify this false legacy. Now you're going to listen to the truth." The presentation continued, detailing every crime, every victim, every covered-up scandal. When it finally ended, the silence was deafening. Monica turned to the remaining guests, trying to salvage the situation. "This is simply a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," I said clearly, "was me thinking I had to earn my place in this family. But now I see, the Fox legacy isn't about honor at all. It's about lies." I grabbed Alice's hand. "Come on, baby. We're going home." "This isn't over," Monica hissed as I passed. I looked her straight in the eye. "You're right. It's just beginning." Dante showed up at midnight, still in his tuxedo, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 hours. "You couldn't wait?" he demanded, bursting into our living room where I sat rehearsing my final toast for tomorrow's main ceremony. "You had to humiliate my entire family at the pre-party? Funny how you're worried about their humiliation, not their lies." I kept my voice low. Alice was asleep upstairs. "I tried to help you." He paced frantically. "I asked Mom to add your family to the tree. I begged her." I froze. "What?" "Last month. I told her it was important to me, to us. She said no, and you told me you never brought it up." My voice was ice. "You looked me in the eye and said you didn't want to start drama." He stopped pacing. "I was trying to protect you." "From what? The truth? Because that's all I did tonight, tell the truth." "The truth?" He laughed bitterly. "The truth is you just destroyed decades of my family's reputation. The senator left, the judge, half the board members of my firm were there." "Good." I stood up, my prepared notes crumpling in my fist. "Let them see exactly what they've been celebrating." Please." His voice softened. "It's not too late. Cancel your toast tomorrow. Say you were emotional, that you made a mistake. Mom will forgive you." "Forgive me?" I stepped closer. "Your mother has spent 12 years trying to erase me, and you lied to protect her, to protect yourself. I was caught in the middle. No, you chose a side. Every time she belittled me, every time she excluded me, you chose her side." A small voice from the stairs made us both turn. "Daddy, why are you yelling at Mommy?" Alice stood there in her unicorn pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. The sight of her broke something in my chest. "Nobody's yelling, sweetheart," I said quickly. "Daddy and I are just talking." "About the party?" Grandma called. She was crying. Dante shot me an accusatory look. "See what you've done?" "What I've done?" I kept my voice steady. "Alice, honey, come here. Remember what we talked about? About how some stories are true and some aren't?" She nodded, climbing onto my lap. "Like Grandma's stories about great-grandpa Isaiah?" "Exactly. Sometimes grown-ups need to tell the true stories, even when it makes other grown-ups upset." "Don't." Dante's voice was sharp. "Don't use our daughter to justify this vendetta." "Vendetta?" I laughed. "You think this is about revenge? This is about making sure our daughter grows up knowing that truth matters more than appearances, that she's worth more than wife of son on some sanitized family tree." Alice looked up at me. "Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced like Katie's parents?" The question hit like a physical blow. Dante sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "No, baby," I stroked her hair. "We're just figuring some things out. How about you go back to bed? I'll come tuck you in again." After she trudged upstairs, Dante spoke quietly. "What do you want from me, Em?" "I wanted you to choose us. Just once, I wanted you to choose your wife and daughter over your mother's precious image. And tomorrow, what happens at the main ceremony?" I picked up my notes. "Tomorrow, I finish what I started. The whole story comes out, including the proof that your mother actively covered it up. You'll destroy her." "No." I shook my head. "She destroyed herself when she decided lies were more important than people. Just like you destroyed us when you decided keeping peace was more important than keeping faith with your wife." He stood slowly. "I need some space to think." "Take all the space you need. I'm done shrinking myself to make room for your family's delusions." At the door, he paused. "What happened to us, Em? We used to be happy. We used to be a lot of things. Real wasn't one of them." After he left, I went upstairs to check on Alice. She was awake, holding her rabbit. "Mommy, is it bad that I still love Grandma even though she told lies?" I sat on her bed, fighting back tears. "No, baby. Love isn't bad, but neither is telling the truth, even when it hurts, especially then." I kissed her forehead. "Sometimes the truth has to hurt before it can heal." She nodded solemnly. "Like when you clean a cut." "Exactly like that." I tucked her in tighter. "Now sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a big day." "Will you tell more true stories?" I thought about my final toast, about the documents still to be revealed, about Monica's carefully curated guest list about to witness the complete dismantling of her precious legacy. "Yes," I whispered, "tomorrow everyone gets to hear the truth." The main ceremony was even grander than the pre-party. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, ice sculptures. Monica had spared no expense in crafting her perfect moment. After last night's disaster, she doubled down on security, including someone monitoring the AV system. But she'd forgotten about Elise. "All set," my friend whispered, slipping into the seat beside me. "I convinced the tech guy I was from the video company. Your presentation is queued up right after Monica's speech." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me yet. Look who just walked in." Dante entered with Alice, both dressed impeccably. He'd moved to his parents' guest house last night, taking our daughter with him, until things calmed down. "Ladies and gentlemen," Monica's voice rang out, somehow steady despite everything. "Despite some unfortunate disruptions yesterday, we're here to celebrate love, legacy, and family." The remaining guests, about half of yesterday's crowd, applauded politely. Monica had spent all morning doing damage control, calling it a technical mishap and a vindictive prank. Before we begin, I'd like to share the true story of our family's foundation. I almost admired her nerve. Almost. The lights dimmed. Her carefully edited video began playing. Isaiah Barnes in his military uniform, the mansion he built, his medical innovations. A man of vision, Monica narrated. A healer, a pioneer, a patriarch whose blood runs in our veins. I stood up quietly, making my way to the podium. Monica saw me coming and faltered slightly. Whose principles guide each generation? Like the principle of honesty? I interrupted, my voice carrying clearly across the ballroom. Or the principle of taking responsibility for your crimes? Security, Monica hissed, but I was already at the controls. No need, I said calmly. I'm just here to help tell the whole story. Isn't that what tonight's about? The complete family history? The screen flickered. Elise's cue. Suddenly, Monica's sanitized video was replaced by newspaper headlines, but not just about Isaiah this time. What's this? Monica demanded. This, I addressed the room, is the document showing you paid the genealogy firm $50,000 to suppress criminal records. This is the letter from Isaiah's first wife begging for help after he abandoned her. And this, I clicked forward, is the death certificate of Sarah Miller, age 6, poisoned by Isaiah's fake medicine. The room erupted in whispers. Monica lunged for the podium, but I held my ground. You think yesterday was bad? That was just the preview. Today we're going to talk about how the Fox fortune was built on blood money, how every generation since has actively worked to bury the truth. Stop this immediately. Monica's face was scarlet. Why? Isn't family history important? Isn't that what you've been preaching my entire marriage? Emery. Dante's voice cut through the chaos. He stood up, holding Alice's hand. That's enough. No, it's not enough. I clicked to the next slide, proof of Monica's cover-up payments. Your mother wants to talk about legacy? Let's talk about the legacy of lies she's forcing onto our daughter. Alice's small voice piped up. Daddy, is that why Grandma's crying? The room fell silent. Monica stood frozen, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. You want to know what real legacy is? I continued, softer now. It's not mansions built with blood money. It's not family trees that erase the inconvenient branches. It's truth. It's integrity. It's admitting when you're wrong. I clicked one final time, showing my own family tree. Modest, honest, real. These are Alice's other ancestors. Teachers, immigrants, civil rights activists. People who built things instead of destroying them. People who told the truth instead of burying it. Get out, Monica's voice shook. Get out of my party, get out of my family. Gladly. I stepped away from the podium. But first, let me leave you with one last truth. You didn't just lie about Isaiah. You lied about everything. Your perfect family, your superior bloodline. It's all built on fraud, just like your precious patriarch. I turned to the stunned guests. The documents proving everything I've said are being emailed to you now, courtesy of my friend the genealogist. Consider it our anniversary gift, the gift of truth. Mom? Dante's voice cracked. Is all of this real? Monica couldn't speak. Her perfect world was crumbling, and no amount of money could stop it. I walked to Alice, kneeling before her. Ready to go home, baby? She looked between me and her grandmother, understanding more than a child should have to. Can we get ice cream? Yes, I smiled, taking her hand. We can get ice cream, and I'll tell you a story. A true one this time. As we left, Monica's sobs echoed through the ballroom. But for the first time in 12 years, I didn't feel small anymore. I felt free. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By midnight, my phone was exploding with notifications. Local news wanted statements. Former Fox family associates were distancing themselves publicly. Monica's carefully curated social media accounts went dark. You've got to see this, Elise said, bursting into my kitchen the next morning. The Historical Society is rescinding their Lifetime Achievement Award to Monica, and 3 board members resigned from the family foundation. I poured her coffee, trying to ignore the empty chair where Dante usually sat. Alice was still at the guest house with him, and the silence felt like a physical presence. "Mom?" Speaking of silence breakers, my daughter's voice carried from the doorway. I turned to find her with Dante, both looking exhausted. "Hi, baby." I opened my arms and she ran into them. "I missed you." "Grandma's really sick," Alice announced. "She won't come out of her room." "She's not sick," Dante said quietly. "She's hiding. The press is camped outside their house." "Good morning to you too," Elise muttered, gathering her things. "I'll call you later, Em." After she left, Dante sat heavily at the kitchen table. "The firm's partners want to meet with me. Something about reputational concerns." "Are you about to blame me for that too?" "No." He rubbed his face. "I'm not here to blame you. I'm here because our daughter needs both her parents and because—" He hesitated. "Because you were right." I sat down, pulling Alice onto my lap. "About what?" "Everything. Mom's manipulation, Dad's weakness, my cowardice." He met my eyes. "I've spent my whole life trying to keep the peace instead of standing up for what's right." "Daddy, are you crying?" Alice reached for him. "No, sweetheart." He caught her hand. "I'm just realizing some important things. Like how sometimes the strongest thing you can do is tell the truth, even when it hurts people you love." The doorbell rang, interrupting the moment. Through the window, I saw Monica on our porch, looking nothing like her usual polished self. "Take Alice upstairs," I told Dante. Please, she doesn't need to see this." Once they were gone, I opened the door. Monica burst in without waiting for an invitation. "Are you happy now?" Her voice was raw. "The foundation is collapsing. The senator won't return our calls. Your father's firm is questioning Dante's position. You've destroyed everything." "No, Monica. You destroyed everything the moment you chose lies over truth." "Truth?" She laughed hysterically. "Truth doesn't build legacies. Truth doesn't maintain social position. Truth doesn't— Doesn't what? Let you pretend you're better than everyone else? Let you erase people who don't fit your perfect narrative? I built this family." "No," I stepped closer. "You built a facade, and now everyone knows what's behind it." "Mom," Dante's voice came from the stairs. "That's enough." "Darling, please." Monica reached for him. "We can fix this. Issue a statement. Say your wife was confused, emotional." "Stop." His voice was firm. "Just stop. For once in your life, stop trying to control everything." "I did it for you. For our name." "No." He shook his head. "You did it for yourself. And I let you. We all let you." Monica sank onto our couch, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Tell the truth," I suggested. "All of it, before someone else does. The truth will ruin us." "The truth already has," Dante said quietly. "But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we needed ruining." A small face peeked around the stairway. "Grandma?" Monica stiffened. "Alice, darling, is it true that great-grandpa Isaiah was a bad man?" The question hung in the air like shattered glass. Monica opened her mouth, probably to spin another lie, but Dante cut her off. "Yes, sweetheart, he did bad things, but that doesn't mean we have to keep doing bad things too." Monica stood abruptly. I can't do this." She headed for the door, then turned back. "When you've calmed down, when you're ready to be reasonable." "Reasonable?" I laughed. "Like you were reasonable when you erased me from the family tree? When you paid people to hide your criminal ancestry while mocking my unverifiable background?" I did what I had to do. No, Dante said firmly. You did what was easy. Now we're all doing what's right. After she left, Alice tugged my hand. Mommy, can we make a new family tree? A true one? I looked at Dante, who nodded slowly. Yes, baby. I pulled her close. We can make a new one, with all our stories, the good ones and the hard ones, because that's what real families do. And Grandma? Dante knelt beside us. Grandma needs to learn that too. It might take her a while. Or forever, I added softly. Or forever, he agreed. But we'll be okay either way. The thing about truth, I told the room full of journalism students, is that it doesn't stay buried. Someone will always dig it up. I clicked to the next slide, the now infamous Fox family tree with all its criminal branches exposed. The story had taken on a life of its own, becoming a case study in how wealthy families manipulated their histories. Any questions? I asked as I wrapped up my guest lecture. A hand shot up. Did your mother-in-law ever apologize? No, I smiled. But she did something better. She disappeared to Europe and stopped trying to control our lives. After the lecture, I found Dante waiting outside the hall. How'd it go? Good, though I'm still not used to being the one telling other people's stories instead of having mine erased. He winced. I deserve that. You deserve a lot of things. I fell into step beside him. But you're trying. That counts for something. We walked across campus in comfortable silence. Things weren't perfect between us. Probably never would be. But they were real. That was enough. Alice wants to show you something, he said as we reached the car. She's been working on it all week. At home, our daughter sat surrounded by papers and photos, her tongue stuck out in concentration. Mommy, come see. I knelt beside her. She'd created her own version of a family tree, but not like Monica's pristine calligraphy. This was messy, colorful, and gloriously honest. Look, she pointed. Here's great-grandpa Isaiah, but I put what he really did. And here's great-grandma Rosa from your side, with her protest signs. And here's Grandma Monica in Europe with her new boyfriend. I choked on my coffee. What? Dante handed me his phone, showing a social media post. Monica in Paris, looking younger somehow, with a distinguished-looking French professor. Dad's handling it better than expected, Dante said. Actually started therapy. Says he should have done it decades ago. And Sonia? Still not speaking to us, but she did remove Proud Fox family descendant from her bio, so progress. Alice tugged my sleeve. Look, Mommy, I put you right in the middle. Not just wife of son, I wrote everything. How you're brave and tell the truth and make the best pancakes. Tears pricked my eyes. It's perfect, baby. Can we hang it up instead of the old one? Absolutely. Speaking of hanging things up, Dante cleared his throat. The Historical Society called. They want to do an exhibit on family history manipulation featuring the Fox case study. They asked if you'd consult. I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Apparently, after our story broke, dozens of other families came forward with similar experiences. Hidden crimes, erased spouses, buried pasts. You started something, Em. We started something, I corrected, by ending something else. The doorbell rang. Alice ran to answer it, then called out, Mommy, it's Aunt Elise. My friend burst in, waving a folder. You're not going to believe this. Remember how we thought Isaiah only had 2 families? Try 4. I found 2 more marriage certificates in different states. Still digging? Dante asked, amused. Always. Elise grinned. Truth is like an onion. There's always another layer. Alice tugged at her aunt's sleeve. Want to help me add more stuff to my tree? I left space for all the secrets. Secrets aren't always bad, I said, watching them settle down with markers and glue. Sometimes they're just stories waiting to be told. Dante slipped his arm around my waist. Remember when you said karma grows wild? Yeah? Look at all this. He gestured to Alice's honest tree, to Elise sharing more discoveries, to the pile of letters from other families thanking me for inspiring their own truth-telling. This is what grew from the ruins. Not perfect, but real. My phone buzzed. Another interview request, this time from a documentary filmmaker. I showed it to Dante. You should do it, he said. Tell the whole story. Our daughter already is. I nodded toward Alice, who was now explaining to Elise why she drew Monica's new boyfriend with a beret. Think Mom will ever come back? Maybe, but not until she's ready to be real too. Alice called us over. Look, I added Daddy's new job teaching architecture instead of working at the mean law firm, and Mommy's lectures about truth. And look, I drew our house bigger than Grandma's old mansion. Why's that? Elise asked. Because our house has real stuff in it, not fake stuff that breaks when you tell the truth. I met Dante's eyes over our daughter's head. He smiled, a real smile, not the practiced Fox family version. Out of the mouths of babes, Elise murmured. Speaking of truth, I picked up a marker. Want to help me add the latest Isaiah discovery to the tree? Always, Alice said firmly. We have to put all the truth on there, even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts, I agreed, because that's what makes it ours.
I never thought my sister's wedding would be the day everything changed. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong when my invitation arrived 3 days before the ceremony. Kitchen staff entrance only, it read in elegant gold script with a crude arrow drawn pointing to the back of the venue. My sister Victoria had always been the golden child. While I chose to work with underprivileged children as a teacher, she climbed a corporate ladder with perfectly manicured nails and designer heels. Our parents never let me forget the difference between us. Why can't you be more like your sister? Mom would say, shaking her head at my simple clothes and practical shoes. Look at her, engaged to James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries. And what do you have to show for yourself? What they didn't know was that I had plenty to show, just not in ways they could understand. My small apartment might not be impressive, but the smiles of my students when they finally grasp a difficult concept, those are worth more than any luxury condo. Still, I went to the wedding. Victoria was my sister, after all, even as she'd grown more distant since getting engaged to James. I put on my best dress, not designer, but elegant in its simplicity, and drove my old Honda Civic to the Grand Plaza Hotel. The security guard at the main entrance took one look at my invitation and pointed to the back. Service entrance only, he said gruffly. I found myself walking through the hotel's kitchen, dodging busy staff preparing for what was clearly going to be an extravagant reception. A hostess led me to a small table tucked behind a large pillar, practically hidden from the main celebration. Victoria's instructions were very clear, she said apologetically. Family members who might embarrass the couple should be kept out of sight. My hands trembled as I sat down. The table was set with plastic utensils, while I could see fine china gleaming on the other tables. A handwritten note in my sister's flowing script sat next to the plastic fork. Know your place, little sister. Don't ruin this for me. I should have left then. Should have walked out and never looked back. But something made me stay. Perhaps the same stubborn determination that made me choose teaching over the corporate career my parents demanded. The ceremony was beautiful, of course. I watched from my hidden corner as Victoria floated down the aisle in a gown that probably cost more than my yearly salary. James Anderson waited at the altar, tall and distinguished in his custom tuxedo. He was handsome in that polished way that Grace magazine covers, but something about his expression seemed strained. Then he saw me. In that moment, as his eyes met mine across the crowded room, James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries, did something completely unexpected. He dropped his wedding ring. The small golden band made a distinct ping as it hit the marble floor and rolled, coming to rest right at my feet. As I bent to pick it up, memories from 15 years ago came flooding back. I was 19, working my way through college at a small coffee shop in Boston. He was 22, a regular customer who always ordered the same thing: black coffee, no sugar. Back then, he wasn't James Anderson, CEO. He was just Jamie, a graduate student with dreams of changing the world through ethical business practices. We'd spent 6 beautiful months together, sharing dreams and plans for the future. He wanted to revolutionize corporate responsibility. I wanted to teach. We talked about combining our passions somehow, maybe starting a foundation for education. Then he disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye. Just vanished from my life completely. I tried to find him, but it was like he never existed. A year later, I saw his photo in a business magazine. James Anderson, heir to Anderson Industries, engaged to a wealthy socialite. My heart broke all over again. Now here he was, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost, while my sister, his bride, watched in confusion. "Jamie," I whispered, holding out his wedding ring. The color drained from his face. Victoria's perfectly plucked eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "James, darling, do you know my pathetic little sister?" But James wasn't looking at his bride anymore. His eyes were fixed on my left hand, where I still wore the small silver ring he'd given me 15 years ago at that coffee shop in Boston. The one with the inscription, "To my Emma who taught me what really matters." "Emma," he breathed, and in that one word, I heard 15 years of regret. Victoria's voice turned sharp. "James, what's going on?" Before he could answer, a distinguished older man rose from the front row. Richard Anderson Sr., James's father and founder of Anderson Industries. His face was thunderous as he approached the altar. "Son," his voice carried across the suddenly silent room. "Please tell me this isn't the same Emma." The same Emma. The words hung in the air like storm clouds. What did he mean, the same Emma? James straightened his spine, and for a moment, I saw the Jamie I used to know, the one who wanted to change the world. "Yes, father," he said clearly. "This is Emma Chen, the woman you paid $5 million to disappear 15 years ago." The room erupted in chaos. Victoria's perfect wedding dissolved into chaos. Guests began whispering, phones recording everything. My sister's face had turned an interesting shade of red that clashed horribly with her white dress. $5 million? I stood up slowly, my teacher's salary suddenly feeling very different. "You paid me to disappear?" Richard Anderson Sr. straightened his expensive tie. "I paid your mother. She assured me you'd never contact James again. Said you agreed it was for the best." My mother. Of course. The pieces started falling into place. Mom's sudden insistence that I transfer universities that year, the mysterious deposit in my college fund, her constant reminders that James, was out of my league. "You knew?" I turned to my mother, who was trying to disappear into her seat. "You took money to separate us?" "It was for your own good." Mom stood, her designer dress rustling. "Look at you, a teacher living in a tiny apartment. James needed someone who could understand his world. Victoria was perfect for him." "Perfect." James laughed bitterly. "Perfect for the company image, you mean? Just like that socialite you tried to set me up with after Emma left. Did you tell Victoria about that too, father? How you've been orchestrating my relationships for 15 years? Victoria finally found her voice. "James, darling, surely you're not comparing my worthless sister to me. I mean, look at her dress, it's not even designer." "No," James said quietly, "it's handmade. Emma always said the most valuable things are made with love, not money." He turned to me. "You still make your own clothes." I nodded, throat tight. He remembered. "This is ridiculous." Richard Anderson Sr. boomed. "Son, you have responsibilities. The merger with Victoria's father's company." "The merger?" James's voice turned cold. "Is that what this wedding is really about, father? Another business deal?" Victoria went pale. "What do you mean, a business deal?" "Oh, didn't you know?" James turned to her. "Your father's company is failing. This marriage would save it. That's why he pushed so hard for you to date me, isn't it?" Victoria's father jumped up. "Now see here." But James wasn't finished. He reached into his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a USB drive. "I found some interesting documents last week, father, about what really happened 15 years ago, about the real reason you wanted Emma gone." Richard Anderson Sr.'s face turned ashen. "James, Emma wasn't just my girlfriend back then," James continued, his voice carrying across the silent room. "She was also volunteering at a youth center in South Boston, a youth center that was about to be demolished for one of our developments. a development that would have displaced hundreds of families. I remembered that fight. The community had been organizing protests, and I'd been helping them. James had been supportive, even talked about finding alternative locations for the development. Emma was organizing the community, James went on. She was good at it too, really good. The media was starting to pay attention. If that development had failed, it would have cost the company millions. But more importantly, it would have shown that Anderson Industries could be beaten. That's why she had to go, isn't it, Father? Richard Anderson Sr. collapsed into his chair. So you paid her mother to make her disappear. James's voice was ice. You destroyed evidence of our relationship. You even donated to her new university to ensure she'd be accepted for a transfer. Also perfectly arranged. I did what was necessary for the company, his father muttered. The company? James laughed. The company that's now mine? He turned to the shocked guests. Oh yes, as of last week, I'm the majority shareholder. Father signed over control as an early wedding gift. Ironic, isn't it? He walked over to me, ignoring Victoria's squeak of protest. Emma, he said softly, I spent 15 years thinking you'd abandoned me. 15 years trying to be the son my father wanted. Then last week, I found these documents and I finally understood. I was going to stop the wedding. But then I saw your name on the guest list. Seated in the kitchen, I added dryly. Of course, he smiled. Victoria always did have a flair for drama. He turned to my sister. The wedding's off, by the way. You might want to check your father's company's financials before he tries to arrange another merger. Victoria screamed, throwing her bouquet at us. It hit a champagne pyramid instead, sending crystal glasses crashing to the floor. As my first act as CEO, James announced over the chaos. Anderson Industries is establishing a $100 million foundation for educational initiatives in underserved communities. He looked at me. We need a director who understands both education and community organizing. Interested? My mother jumped up. Emma, darling, I always knew you had potential. Save it, I cut her off. I think you've done enough helping for one lifetime. I turned to James. The foundation job, does it come with a corner office? He grinned. Only if you'll have dinner with me first. I know this little coffee shop in Boston. You can't do this, Victoria shrieked. Daddy, do something. But her father was already rushing out, phone in hand, probably calling his accountant. Richard Anderson Sr. stood up shakily. Son, think about what you're doing. Oh, I have, Father. For 15 years. James took my hand. The company's image could use some updating, don't you think? Less corporate greed, more social responsibility. Emma always said the measure of success isn't how much money you make, but how many lives you improve. My sister launched into another screaming fit, but I barely heard her. I was looking at the small silver ring I'd never taken off, remembering a young man in a coffee shop who wanted to change the world. You kept it, James said softly, touching the ring. You came back, I replied. 6 months later, the Anderson Chen Educational Foundation had already funded 50 community programs. Victoria eventually married a minor European prince, who, ironically, believed in socialist policies. My parents suddenly became very interested in charitable giving, though their invitations to family events mysteriously get lost in the mail. Richard Anderson Sr. retired to a villa in Italy, though he did send a surprisingly heartfelt letter of apology. I framed it next to the newspaper article about our foundation's launch. As for me and James, we still go to that coffee shop in Boston. He still orders black coffee, no sugar. But now when we talk about changing the world, we actually do it. The small silver ring finally has a companion, a simple gold band that matches it perfectly. The inscription, to my James, who came back to what really matters. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting it right. Hi, I'm Jessica Chen, and this is the story of how my mother's cruelest words became the foundation of my success. They say the best revenge is living well. But sometimes living well means watching your tormentors realize exactly what they threw away. I can still hear her voice on that rainy November night, sharp as broken glass. You're worthless, just like your father. Get out of my house. I was 18, fresh out of high school, clutching an acceptance letter to a local community college. My crime? Choosing to study computer science instead of following my mother's dream of me becoming a doctor. Linda Chen, my mother, had always been obsessed with status. After divorcing my father when I was 12, she'd rebuilt her image as a successful real estate agent in our affluent suburban community. Our house was a showcase of her success, all gleaming hardwood and crystal chandeliers. But beneath that perfect surface lay a woman who measured everything and everyone by their potential to elevate her social status. Computer science? She'd sneered, reading my college plans. Do you want to fix printers for minimum wage your whole life? No daughter of mine will embarrass me like this. I tried explaining about artificial intelligence, software development, the growing tech industry, but Mom was already typing on her phone, barely listening. I've already told everyone you're pre-med. The wine's daughter is starting at Johns Hopkins this fall. How am I supposed to hold my head up at the country club now? That's when I made my fatal mistake. Maybe if you spent less time at the country club and more time understanding what I want. The slap caught me off guard, sending my glasses flying. In the ringing silence that followed, Mom's perfectly manicured hand shook with rage. You ungrateful little snake, she hissed. I gave up everything to give you the best life. Your loser father hasn't paid child support in years. But I made sure you had designer clothes, piano lessons, everything. And this is how you repay me. She stormed upstairs, and for a moment I thought that was the end of it, just another of her dramatic outbursts. Then she returned with a garbage bag full of my clothes, throwing it at my feet. Get out. Go live with your worthless father if you want to throw your life away. I won't watch you become a failure. Mom, please. I said out. She grabbed my arm, nails digging in, and practically dragged me to the door. Don't come crawling back when you're living in some filthy apartment fixing computers for minimum wage. The door slammed behind me, leaving me alone in the rain. I was 18, had $342 in my savings account, and nowhere to go. My father lived 3 states away, struggling to keep his small computer repair shop afloat. I hadn't seen him in person since the divorce. That night, sitting in a 24-hour diner with my garbage bag of belongings, I made 2 calls. The first was to my father. Come stay with me, Jesse, he said immediately, his voice warm despite the static on the line. It's not much, but we'll figure something out. The second call was to decline my community college acceptance. If I was going to prove my mother wrong, I needed to think bigger. The next few years were a blur of work and study. I moved in with Dad above his repair shop, taking online courses while helping him modernize his business. His shop, Chen's Computer Repair, became my crash course in both technology and business management. Your mother always said I was dreaming too small. Dad told me one night as we worked late upgrading a client's servers. Maybe I was, but sometimes small dreams are the seeds of bigger ones. He was right. While helping local businesses with their needs, I noticed a common problem. Small companies needed enterprise-level cybersecurity, but couldn't afford the expensive solutions big corporations used. That observation became the seed of everything that followed. I spent my nights coding, developing a simplified but robust security suite specifically for small businesses. Dad let me test early versions on his clients, their feedback helping me refine the software. When I wasn't coding or helping in the shop, I was teaching myself about business planning, marketing, and startup funding. 3 years after being thrown out, I launched Secure Small, my cybersecurity startup. The timing was perfect. A wave of ransomware attacks had just targeted small businesses across the country, and our affordable solution quickly gained traction. Dad was my first investor, remortgaging his shop to give me seed money. I believe in you, Jesse, he said, signing the papers. Show them what a worthless person can do. The next few years were a rocket ride. Secure Small expanded from cybersecurity into other small business solutions. We opened offices in 3 cities. I hired the best developers I could find, many of them overlooked talents from non-traditional backgrounds. By my 28th birthday, Secure Small was valued at $80 million, and I was being featured in technology magazines as a rising star in the industry. I never Googled my mother during those years, though I knew she still lived in the same house, still sold real estate to the same wealthy clients. Sometimes I imagined her at her country club, lying about her successful doctor-daughter living abroad. I wondered if anyone ever questioned why there were no pictures, no visits, no proof of this fictional successful child. Then came the day everything changed. I was in my corner office, reviewing acquisition offers from larger tech companies when my assistant buzzed me. Ms. Chen, there's a Linda Chen here to see you. She claimed she's your mother. I felt the old familiar tightness in my chest, but this time it was different. This time I was different. Send her in, I said. The woman who walked through my door looked smaller than I remembered. Her designer suit was a few seasons old, her smile strained, but her voice still carried that familiar mix of authority and disdain. Jessica, darling, I've been trying to reach you. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Finally, I said, really? The last words you spoke to me were that I was worthless. That was 10 years ago. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, sweetheart, you know I didn't mean that. I was just worried about your future. And look at you now, so successful. I always knew you had it in you. Why are we here, Mom? Her smile faltered slightly. Well, as your mother, I thought it was time we reconnected. And actually, I'm between positions right now. The real estate market isn't what it used to be. I thought perhaps, given your company's success, you might have a place for me. Something in client relations, maybe? You know how good I am with people. I looked at the woman who had thrown me out with nothing, who had called me worthless, who had chosen her social status over her own daughter. And I smiled. Actually, Mom, we do have an opening. Why don't you come back tomorrow morning? 8 a.m. sharp. We'll see exactly what you're worth to this company. She beamed, completely missing the edge in my voice. Oh, wonderful. I knew you wouldn't let your mother down. The Wams will be so impressed when I tell them. No announcements yet. I cut in smoothly. Let's see how tomorrow goes first. After she left, I made several calls. Tomorrow would indeed show everyone exactly what people were worth, and it would be a lesson my mother would never forget. The next morning, I arrived at the office at 7 a.m. Everything had to be perfect for what I had planned. My mother arrived at 7:58, wearing her most expensive suit, her smile bright with anticipation. Jessica, darling, I brought coffee for my successful daughter. She held up a cup from an expensive cafe, the kind she used to say I'd never be able to afford. Follow me, Mom, I said, leading her not to my office but to the main conference room. Her smile faltered slightly when she saw it was full of people, our entire management team, several board members, and in the center, my father. John, what are you doing here? She nearly dropped her coffee. Dad just smiled, the same gentle smile he'd worn when he remortgaged his shop to fund my dreams. Please, take a seat, Mom. I gestured to the only empty chair, positioned directly under the main screen. You wanted to see what position you might be worth in this company. Let's discuss that. I moved to the front of the room, clicking to the first slide. It showed a garbage bag full of clothes on a rainy doorstep. 10 years ago, Linda Chen threw her 18-year-old daughter out of the house for choosing to study computer science instead of medicine. She called that daughter worthless. I clicked to the next slide, security footage from that night at the diner. That daughter had $342 to her name. Mom's face had gone pale. Jessica, this is hardly appropriate for a business meeting. Oh, but it is, I continued smoothly, because Securus Mall's core values are built on recognizing worth in unexpected places. We hire talented developers who taught themselves coding in libraries because they couldn't afford college. We create solutions for small businesses that bigger companies deemed worthless. Everything we do is about seeing the value others miss. I clicked through more slides. Dad's shop, early versions of our software, our first tiny office. When we evaluate potential employees, we look at 3 things: their skills, their character, and their judgment of worth. So let's evaluate Linda Chen. I turned to face her directly. Skills first. You were a successful real estate agent, specializing in luxury properties. But according to public records, you haven't closed a sale in 8 months. Your license is currently suspended pending investigation of misrepresented property values. Mom's face flushed red. That was a simple misunderstanding. Character next, I continued as if she hadn't spoken. You abandoned your ex-husband when his business struggled, then prevented him from seeing his daughter. You threw that daughter out for not conforming to your image of success. And now that you're facing financial difficulties, you've come to the daughter you called worthless, expecting a job. The room was dead silent. Even the usual traffic sounds from outside seemed muted. Finally, judgment of worth. 10 years ago, you looked at a bright, ambitious 18-year-old and saw nothing of value because she didn't fit your narrow definition of success. You looked at a hardworking small business owner and saw a loser. Your judgment of worth has consistently been not just poor, but actively harmful. I clicked to the final slide, a comparison of two numbers. This is interesting, Mom. The first number is the current value of your suspended real estate license and frozen assets, approximately $42,000. The second is Secure Small's latest valuation, $80 million. Quite a gap between your judgment of worth and reality. Mom stood up, her hands shaking. I get it, Jessica. You've made your point. You're successful, and I was wrong. I'm sorry. Now can we discuss my position here like adults? I smiled. Oh, we are discussing your position. In fact, I do have a job for you. Her eyes lit up with hope. We're launching a new initiative to provide a training in cybersecurity solutions to small computer repair shops. Dad's shop was our prototype location. We're expanding to 500 shops nationwide this year. I handed her a folder. Inside you'll find a job offer. Entry-level technical support. 6-month probationary period. Starting salary matches our standard entry-level package. You'll work at Dad's shop, learning the basics of the industry you once dismissed. If you complete the training successfully, you'll have the opportunity to advance based solely on your merit, not your connections, not your status, not your relation to me. She stared at the folder like it might bite her. Technical support? At John's shop? But I'm your mother. No, Mom. 10 years ago, you made it very clear I wasn't your daughter anymore because I was worthless. You can't take that back just because my worth now comes with dollar signs attached. I turned to the room, meeting adjourned, everyone. Thank you for your time. As people filed out, Mom remained frozen in her chair, clutching the folder. The choice is yours, I said quietly. You can take the job, learn the industry from the ground up, and maybe eventually understand what real worth looks like. Or you can walk away. Either way, this is the only offer you'll ever get from me. Dad waited by the door as Mom slowly stood up, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. I need time to think, she whispered. Take 24 hours, I replied, just like you gave me 10 years ago. After she left, Dad wrapped me in a hug. You okay, Jessie? I nodded against his shoulder. You know what's funny, Dad? Part of me hoped she'd take one look at that entry-level offer and storm out in outrage. It would prove she hadn't changed at all. And now? Now I almost hope she takes it, not for her sake, but because maybe, just maybe, she'll learn what we learned. That worth isn't about status or appearances. It's about what you build, what you contribute, how you treat people. The next morning, I arrived at work to find Mom waiting in reception, wearing a simple blouse instead of her designer suit. I'll take the job, she said quietly. I nodded. Report to Dad's shop tomorrow at 8 a.m. Don't be late. As I watched her leave, I thought about worth. How we measure it, how we create it, how we recognize it in others. My mother had thrown away a daughter in search of status. She'd lost everything chasing an image of success. Now she had a chance to learn what real success looked like, from the ground up. Would she learn? Only time would tell. But I had already learned the most valuable lesson. Sometimes being called worthless is just the beginning of proving your true worth. Today, Secure Small continues to grow. We've helped thousands of small businesses protect themselves in the digital age. Mom, she's still working at Dad's shop, slowly learning the industry she once dismissed. Sometimes, when I visit the shop, I catch her watching me with a mixture of pride and regret. Last week, she successfully completed her first solo computer repair. Dad sent me a photo of her proud smile, so different from her old country club smirk. Maybe she's finally learning that real worth isn't in what you appear to be, but in what you actually do. As for me, I keep that old garbage bag in my office closet. Not as a reminder of pain, but as a reminder that being called worthless doesn't make it true. Sometimes it just means others failed to see your worth. And proving them wrong, that's the sweetest success of all. Hi, I'm Emily Parker, and this is the story of how my perfect sister's dream wedding turned into a nightmare. Not because I wanted revenge, but because sometimes the truth refuses to stay buried. I was adopted by the Parkers when I was 6 months old. My parents, especially my dad, James Parker, always made sure I never felt different from my biological sister Kate, who was born 2 years after they adopted me. At least that's what I thought for 28 years. Dad's company, Parker Innovation Labs, was his pride and joy, a small research and development firm that created custom solutions for manufacturing companies. I grew up watching him pour his heart into it, spending late nights in his home office reviewing projects and proposals. While Kate excelled in dance recitals and beauty pageants, I inherited Dad's passion for innovation. I spent my summers interning at the company, learning every aspect of the business. After getting my engineering degree, I joined full-time as a project manager. That was 8 years ago. Since then, I'd worked my way up to Chief Innovation Officer, helping transform our small family business into an industry leader worth over $100 million. Kate, meanwhile, had become a successful social media influencer, posting about luxury lifestyle and relationship advice. The problem started when Kate got engaged to Thomas Bradford IEI, heir to Bradford Technologies, one of our biggest competitors. This merger of families will be perfect for business, Mom gushed during Kate's engagement party at our family estate. The champagne was flowing, and everyone who was anyone in the tech industry had been invited. I should have seen the signs earlier, the whispered conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, the strange looks from board members, the way Dad had been avoiding one-on-one meetings with me for weeks. Kate clanked her crystal champagne flute, gathering everyone's attention. She stood on the mansion's grand staircase, her designer dress sparkling under the chandelier lights. Thomas stood beside her, looking every bit the proud future CEO he was being groomed to be. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate our engagement," Kate beamed. "But there's something else we need to address tonight." My stomach dropped as her eyes found me in the crowd. "Emily, dear sister," her voice dripped with false concern. "We need to talk about the money." The room fell silent. I clutched my glass tighter. "What money?" "The $2 million that's missing from the company accounts." She paused for dramatic effect. "The money you've been embezzling for the past year." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. Whispers erupted around the room. I looked to Dad for support, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "What are you talking about?" I managed to say. "I would never." "We have proof," Thomas interrupted, pulling out a folder. Financial records showing systematic theft through a series of cleverly hidden transactions, all traced back to your personal accounts. I felt the room spinning. "Dad, you know I would never steal from the company. Everything I've done has been for." "Save it," Kate snapped. "You're just the adopted one, trying to steal what rightfully belongs to the real Parker family. It's time to pay it all back." The silence that followed her words was deafening. I waited for Dad to defend me, to say something, anything. Instead, he slowly nodded. "The evidence is quite clear, Emily," he said quietly. "I think it would be best if you resigned immediately. We won't press charges if you return the money." In that moment, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered. 28 years of love and belonging crumbled under the weight of one accusation. I set my glass down carefully on a nearby table. "You want me to resign? Fine, I quit. But you should check those financial records more carefully before you make accusations." I walked out of the party with my head held high, ignoring the whispers and stares. As I reached my car, I heard Kate's voice ring out from the doorway. "Don't forget to return your company laptop and phone. We wouldn't want you deleting any evidence." I smiled despite the tears threatening to fall. My sister had always been so focused on appearances that she never bothered to learn how the company actually worked. She had no idea that for the past 3 years, I'd been documenting everything. That night, as I sat in my home office, I began implementing the contingency plan I created but hoped never to use. Years of watching other family businesses implode had taught me to always be prepared for betrayal. I pulled out my personal laptop and accessed a secure server that Kate and Thomas didn't know existed. Every email, every transaction, every piece of evidence showing who had really been stealing from the company. It was all there, waiting to be revealed. Kate's wedding was in a week. She planned an extravagant ceremony at the city's most exclusive venue, with over 500 guests, including every major player in the tech industry. She'd spent months ensuring it would be the social event of the year. Little did she know, I had my own plans for her special day. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone's future. It's about revealing the truth about their past. As I prepared for bed that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. "Don't even think about coming to the wedding. Security has your photo." I replied with a simple smiley face emoji. She had no idea that I didn't need an invitation to crash her perfect day. After all, I designed the venue's security system myself. The next 7 days would change everything. But first, I had some calls to make. The morning of Kate's wedding dawned bright and clear. While she was probably getting her hair and makeup done at the Peninsula Hotel's presidential suite, I was in my home office making final preparations. The last week had been busy. I'd reached out to key industry contacts, set up meetings with the SEC, and gathered irrefutable evidence of what had really been happening at Parker Innovation Labs. But my most important call had been to someone Kate had completely forgotten about: our company's original programmer, old Joe. Joe had worked for Dad since the beginning, creating our core software systems. Kate and Thomas thought he retired 6 months ago. They didn't know he still maintained backdoor access to all company servers at my request. Got everything? I texted Joe at 9 a.m., all downloaded and verified, he replied. They never changed the master passwords. Amateurs. I smiled, thinking of Kate's face when she realized her clever financial tricks weren't so clever after all. The money she accused me of stealing, every penny could be traced back to offshore accounts belonging to her fiance's family. At precisely 2 p.m., I parked my car 2 blocks from the St. Regis Hotel. The wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. in the grand ballroom. Security was tight. Kate had made sure of that. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I'd installed the hotel's entire security infrastructure 3 years ago through Parker Innovation Labs. I walked through the service entrance, nodding to the kitchen staff who recognized me from the system installation. My fingerprints still worked on the biometric locks, another oversight. I made my way to the control room, where my old friend Marcus was working security. Emily? He looked surprised. They said you were banned. I handed him a USB drive. Marcus, remember when I saved your job last year after that breach? I need a favor. 20 minutes later, I was settled in the ballroom's upper control booth. Below, guests were arriving, the who's who of the tech industry, all dressed in their finest. Mom was greeting people, wearing an expensive new dress. Dad stood with Thomas's parents, probably discussing the merger they'd announced yesterday. The merger that would save Bradford Technologies from bankruptcy, using Parker Innovation Labs' money. My money. The money Kate accused me of stealing. At 3:55 p.m., Kate made her entrance for photos. She looked stunning in her designer gown, beaming as cameras flashed. Thomas waited at the altar, looking every bit the proud groom. I waited until the ceremony began, until the minister asked if anyone had any objections. That's when I activated Joe's program. The ballroom's lights dimmed. The massive screens meant for wedding photos came to life. And there, in high definition, began playing a presentation I titled The Truth About the Parker Family Fortune. Financial records, emails, secret meetings, every corrupt dealing, every stolen dollar, every lie, display for all to see. Kate's face went from confusion to horror as she watched proof of her fiance's embezzlement scheme unfold on screen. Turn it off, Thomas shouted, but the hotel's systems weren't responding to anyone but me. Then came the recording, a conversation between Kate and Thomas from 3 months ago. Once we frame Emily for the missing money, Dad will have to give me control of the company. Kate's voice filled the ballroom. The adopted brat never deserved it anyway. And once we merge the companies, Thomas replied, we can sell off Parker's assets to cover Bradford's debts. Your father will never know what hit him. The screens switched to security footage of them doctoring financial records in Thomas's office, carefully crafting the trail that would lead to me. The ballroom erupted in chaos. I emerged from the control booth, walking calmly down the main aisle. Kate stood frozen in her white dress, mascara running down her cheeks. Security, she screamed when she saw me. They work for me, I said quietly, or rather, they work for Parker Innovation Labs Security Division, which I built from the ground up. Dad stepped forward, his face ashen. Emily, Save it, I cut him off. Check your email. You'll find copies of everything you just saw, plus documentation of every innovation and client relationship I brought to the company. My resignation terms are attached. You have 1 hour to accept them. You're bluffing, Thomas snarled. You've got nothing. I smiled. The SEC disagrees. They're very interested in Bradford Technologies' creative accounting, as are your shareholders. I nodded towards several pale-faced board members in the crowd. Oh, and Kate. You were right about one thing. I'm not a real Parker. I'm better. I built that company into what it is today. While you were busy taking selfies and plotting theft, Mom tried to approach me, but I held up my hand. My terms are simple. I take 51% ownership of Parker Innovation Labs, effective immediately. Kate and Thomas are banned from any involvement in the company. And Dad, you can keep your position as figurehead CEO, but your voting rights go to me. And if we refuse? Kate's voice shook. Then I release everything to the media. Parker Innovation Labs might survive the scandal. Bradford Technologies won't. I turned to the shocked guests. I suggest you all go home. I don't think there's going to be a wedding today. The next few hours were a blur of lawyers, documents, and tears. By midnight, I owned controlling interest in the company I'd helped build. Bradford Technologies stock was in freefall, and Kate's perfect wedding had become the scandal of the year. 1 week later, I sat in my new office, formerly Dad's, reviewing acquisition proposals for what remained of Bradford Technologies. A knock at the door interrupted my work. It was Dad, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I should have believed in you, he said quietly. Yes, you should have. Can we ever fix this? I thought about it. Maybe. Not as father and daughter, you lost that right at the engagement party. But as business partners, we'll see. You taught me my first lesson about innovation. Sometimes you have to tear something down completely before you can build it back better. He nodded sadly and left. I turned back to my window, looking out at the city skyline. My phone buzzed. A text from Kate. I'm sorry, I was wrong about everything. I didn't reply. Some apologies come too late. They say success is the best revenge, but I disagree. The best revenge is forcing people to face their own lies. Kate wanted a wedding that everyone would remember. Well, she got her wish, just not in the way she planned. As for me, I'm still the same person who loves innovation and building things. The only difference is now everyone knows what I'm capable of, and no one will ever call me just the adopted one again.
Hi, I'm Emma Thompson, and this is the story of how an abandoned farm turned me from the family disappointment into someone my greedy relatives couldn't ignore. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the places others consider worthless. I still remember the day of the will reading like it was yesterday. The mahogany-paneled law office felt suffocating as our family lawyer, Mr. Harrison, adjusted his glasses and began reading my parents' final wishes. The tragic car accident that took both of them had left a $50 million fortune to be divided between my sister Sarah and me. Or so I thought. To our beloved daughter Sarah, Mr. Harrison read, we leave our investment portfolio, the family mansion, and all liquid assets. Sarah's perfectly lipsticked mouth curved into a triumphant smile. To Emma, he continued, his voice softening slightly, we leave Grandpa Thompson's old farm property in Montana. The room fell silent. Then Sarah's laughter shattered it. A farm, she sneered, her designer bracelet jingling as she waved dismissively. Oh, this is perfect. Little Emma always did prefer playing in the dirt to attending charity galas. I sat there, stunned. The 200-acre farm had been abandoned for 20 years, ever since Grandpa passed away. Dad had always called it worthless, refusing to even visit it. Now it was my only inheritance. There must be some mistake, my Aunt Patricia interjected, her face pinched with concern that wasn't for me. Richard and Margaret would never leave their daughter with just dirt. Mr. Harrison shook his head. The will is quite clear. The farm, including all structures and contents, belongs to Emma. Sarah stood up, smoothing her channel dress. Well, sis, enjoy your barns and chickens. I've got a portfolio to manage. She paused at the door, her smile cruel. Don't worry, if you need a loan, I'm sure we can work something out. After all, what's family for? I left the law office that day with a single manila envelope containing the farm's deed and keys. 20 years of dust coated everything when I arrived at the property the next day. The main house was a weathered 2-story structure that had seen better days, but it was the massive old barn that caught my attention. Grandpa Thompson had been an odd man, brilliant, but eccentric. He'd made his fortune in mining engineering before retiring to this farm, where he spent his last years tinkering in that barn. Dad always said the old man had lost his mind, wasting his genius on a worthless piece of land. The barn door groaned as I pushed it open. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the wooden walls, illuminating decades of cobwebs. Old farming equipment sat rusting in corners. But something felt off about the space. The dimensions didn't quite match the exterior. I remember following Grandpa here as a child, watching him disappear for hours behind a hidden door. Our little secret, he'd whisper, waking. After his death, no one could find that door. Dad searched briefly before declaring it another of his father's delusions. But I remembered. 3 taps on the north wall, then pushed the 4th board from the bottom. My hands trembled as I followed the long-forgotten pattern. Click. A section of wall swung inward, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. My phone's flashlight illuminated the way down to a massive underground room. What I saw inside made my heart stop. Covering the walls were detailed geological surveys, mining charts, and chemical analyses. In the center sat a sophisticated testing lab, preserved under dust covers. But it was the safe in the corner that changed everything. The combination was my birthday. Grandpa never forgot it, even in his final days. Inside, I found a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. The journal's first page read, "To Emma, the only one who ever bothered to listen." As I read through his meticulous notes, tears filled my eyes. Grandpa hadn't lost his mind. He'd made a discovery that would reshape the entire mining industry. The worthless farm sat on top of one of the largest rare earth element deposits in North America. He developed a revolutionary extraction process that was both efficient and environmentally friendly. The USB drive contained detailed patents, already filed, but never activated. Grandpa had been waiting for the right moment, and the right person, to bring his discovery to life. My hands shook as I realized what this meant. The farm wasn't worthless. It was worth billions. But I knew that if my family found out, they'd try to take it from me. Sarah would hire the best lawyers, claim I wasn't competent to handle such a discovery. I needed to move carefully, protect myself before anyone realized what Grandpa had left me. I spent that night in the old house, reading through every page of his journal. In the morning, I made 3 calls to a patent lawyer, a mining engineer, and an investment banker I'd befriended during my own quiet years working in finance, a career my family had dismissed as modest. "Keep this absolutely confidential," I told each of them. "I'm about to show you something that will change everything." Over the next 6 months, I worked in secret. While Sarah posted photos of her luxury vacations and charity galas, I assembled a team of the industry's best minds. The old barn became our command center, its hidden lab modernized with cutting-edge equipment. "These patents are revolutionary," Dr. Chen, our lead engineer, explained during one late-night session. "Your grandfather's extraction process could make rare earth mining both profitable and environmentally sustainable. Do you realize what this means?" I did. With the growing demand for rare earth elements in everything from smartphones to electric vehicles, we were sitting on a gold mine. Literally and figuratively. We'd incorporated Thompson's sustainable resources quietly through a series of shell companies, I used my savings from years of careful investing to fund initial operations. Every step was calculated to keep my family in the dark. Then came Sarah's wedding, a lavish affair at the family mansion. I almost didn't attend, but I knew my absence would raise questions. "Oh, Emma," Sarah exclaimed with false warmth when I arrived. "How's farming going?" Her new husband, a hedge fund manager, snickered. "It's quite educational," I replied mildly. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask, how's the tech sector of your portfolio performing?" Sarah's smile faltered slightly. "Why? Just curious. I heard rare earth element shortages are causing problems for manufacturers. Must be affecting stock prices." "I haven't checked recently," she admitted, clearly uncomfortable with her lack of knowledge. "You should look into it," I suggested, hiding my smile behind a champagne glass. The next morning, while Sarah jetted off to her honeymoon in the Maldives, we broke ground on our first extraction facility. By the time she returned 3 weeks later, Thomson Sustainable Resources had already secured contracts with 3 major tech manufacturers. The story broke in the Wall Street Journal. Revolutionary mining company disrupts rare earth market. My phone exploded with calls from family members as our company's value soared past $1 billion in its first public trading day. "Emma," Sarah's voice was shrill when she finally reached me. "Why didn't you tell us? We're family." "Are we?" I asked quietly. I thought I was just the girl who got dirt for her inheritance. The next few weeks were chaos. Sarah and Aunt Patricia tried to claim that Grandpa's patents should have been part of the family estate. Their lawyers argued that I had concealed valuable assets. But Grandpa had planned everything perfectly. His will explicitly stated that halal contents of the farm, including any intellectual property developed there, belonged to me. The hidden lab's existence proved he developed everything on the farm property. The final showdown came at an emergency family meeting called by Aunt Patricia. They all sat around the massive dining table in the mansion, the same table where they'd once mocked my modest career choices. "You have to understand," Sarah pleaded, her designer bracelets clinking nervously. "Dad would have wanted the family to share in this." I pulled out Grandpa's journal, opening to a marked page. "Dear Emma," I read aloud, "I'm leaving you this farm because you're the only one who saw its value beyond dollar signs. Your father and sister chase wealth, but you chased knowledge. That's why you'll succeed where they failed." The room fell silent. "You know what the difference is between us, Sarah?" I continued, closing the journal. "When you got the family fortune, I congratulated you. When I built something of my own, you tried to take it. We can work something out," she began, but I cut her off. "Actually, we can't, but I will give you some free advice. Invest in sustainable technology. Thomson Sustainable Resources is about to announce a major expansion." As I walked out of the mansion, Aunt Patricia called after me. "Your parents would be ashamed of how selfish you're being." I turned back one last time. "No, they'd be ashamed. They never saw what Grandpa saw in me. But that's their loss. Just like this company is your loss." Today, Thomson Sustainable Resources is valued at $12 billion. We're revolutionizing the mining industry while protecting the environment. The old farm has become a state-of-the-art research facility, though I kept the barn exactly as Grandpa left it, secret room and all. Sarah still tries to reconcile occasionally, usually when she needs something. Last month, she called about investing in our latest venture. I had my assistant direct her to our public investor relations line. The family mansion was recently put up for sale. Sarah's risky investments and lavish lifestyle had finally caught up with her. I bought it through a shell company and turned it into a science education center for underprivileged kids. Yesterday, I received an invitation to speak at my old high school's graduation ceremony. The topic? Finding value in unexpected places. I accepted immediately, already planning my speech. After all, sometimes the greatest fortune isn't what you're given, but what you discover when everyone else has stopped looking. As for the old farm, I still live in Grandpa's house, though I've renovated it thoughtfully. Every morning, I walk to the barn and tap that secret panel, remembering the man who saw past appearances to true value, both in the land and in me. They say success is the best revenge, but I've learned it's not about revenge at all. It's about proving that true worth isn't in what you inherit, but in what you create. And sometimes, the most valuable inheritance isn't money, it's the wisdom to see what others miss. Hi, I'm Maya Chin, and this is the story of how my small family restaurant became one of the most exclusive dining spots in New York City, all because my in-laws couldn't resist tearing me down one last time. Cooking has always been my passion. Growing up in a modest Chinese-American household, I spent countless hours in our tiny kitchen, learning traditional recipes from my grandmother while adding my own contemporary twists. My parents wanted me to pursue a respectable career in medicine or law, but my heart belonged to the culinary arts. That's how I met James, my husband. He was a regular at the small Asian fusion restaurant where I worked as a sous chef. He'd come in 3 times a week, always ordering something different, always asking to compliment the chef. When we finally met, the connection was instant. He loved my innovative takes on traditional dishes, and I loved his genuine appreciation for culinary creativity. What I didn't love was his family. The Whittakers were old money, with a lineage that apparently traced back to the Mayflower, something his mother, Elizabeth, mentioned at every possible opportunity. His father, Richard, was a real estate mogul who owned half the commercial properties in Manhattan's Upper East Side. And his sister, Victoria, was a social media influencer who'd never worked a day in her life, but somehow had 3 million followers on Instagram. From the moment James introduced me, they made it clear I wasn't their kind of people. A chef? Elizabeth had said, her voice dripping with disdain. How quaint. But James stood by me, and we got married despite their objections. I thought time would heal the rift, that proving myself as a loving wife would eventually win them over. I was wrong. 5 years into our marriage, I decided to pursue my dream. With our savings and a small inheritance from my grandmother, I opened Fusion Garden, a cozy restaurant that blended traditional Asian cuisine with modern American influences. James supported me completely, even though it meant living on a tighter budget while the restaurant found its footing. The first year was tough, as it is for any new restaurant. We had good days and bad days, but slowly, we were building a loyal customer base. Food critics were starting to take notice, and our weekend reservations were usually booked solid. It wasn't a Michelin star establishment, but it was mine, and I was proud of what we were creating. Then came last year's Thanksgiving. The Whittakers insisted on hosting the entire extended family, including me and James. Usually, I tried to avoid these gatherings, but James convinced me it would be good for business networking. Dad's friends are always looking for new places to host their business dinners, he said optimistically. I should have trusted my instincts. The evening started with the usual subtle jabs. Elizabeth commented on my simple dress, which cost 3 months of profits. Victoria asking if I needed recommendations for a good plastic surgeon. She knew a great one who fixed her nose, and Richard barely acknowledging my existence. But it was during dinner that everything fell apart. "So, Maya," Elizabeth started, swirling her wine glass with practiced elegance. "James tells me you're little. The restaurant is still operating. How surprising." I felt James tense beside me. "Yes, we're doing quite well, actually. Our weekend reservations are usually—" "Oh, darling." Victoria cut in, scrolling through her phone. "I saw your reviews online. 3 stars? That's barely passing, isn't it? Actually, 3 stars on Michelin is—" I tried to explain, but Richard interrupted. "Let's be honest here," he said, putting down his fork with a loud clunk that silenced the table. "We've all eaten there. The food is mediocre at best. No innovation, no style, just worthless food from a worthless chef who clearly doesn't understand fine dining." The table fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, some with pity, others with poorly concealed amusement. "Dad," James started, but I placed my hand on his arm. "No, Richard's entitled to his opinion," I said quietly, standing up. "Though I find it interesting that someone who thinks my food is worthless has reserved a table at Fusion Garden 6 times in the past month under different names." Elizabeth's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. "What's wrong, Elizabeth? Didn't think I'd recognize your husband when he came in wearing different suits, sitting at corner tables, taking detailed notes? Or did you think I wouldn't notice Victoria's anonymous food blogger friends coming in with their cameras?" Richard's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "We were merely conducting market research. The property your restaurant sits on is owned by the Chang Family Trust. I finished for him. My grandmother's family. Not part of your real estate empire, and not for sale." The silence that followed was deafening. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I continued, placing my napkin on the table, "I have a restaurant to run. A worthless one, apparently, but it's mine." I walked out of that dining room with my head held high, ignoring Elizabeth's spluttering and Victoria's furious typing on her phone. James followed me to the car, apologizing profusely, but I barely heard him. Because during those painful minutes at the Whitaker family table, a plan had started forming in my mind. A plan that would take 6 months to execute, would cost me every favor I'd ever earned in the culinary world, and would ultimately change everything. They thought my food was worthless. Fine. They wanted to conduct market research. Perfect. They didn't think I understood fine dining. Oh, they had no idea what I was capable of. That night, as James slept, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my old mentor from culinary school, now a celebrated chef in Paris. The second was to a restaurant designer who owed me a favor. And the third was to a certain celebrity chef known for transforming restaurants. By morning, Operation Restaurant Revolution was in motion. The next 6 months would test everything I knew about cooking, business, and revenge. And the best part, the Whitakers would never see it coming. The next morning, I arrived at Fusion Garden earlier than usual. My staff could sense something had changed. There was a new energy in my movements, a spark in my eyes that hadn't been there before. They'd learn why soon enough. "Team meeting in 10 minutes," I announced, tying my apron with practiced precision. "Everyone needs to be there." And I mean everyone. As my staff gathered in the dining room, servers, line cooks, dishwashers, hosts, I took a deep breath and shared my vision. Over the next 6 months, we would transform Fusion Garden into something unprecedented in New York's culinary scene. But I needed their complete dedication and discretion. "What I'm proposing will be the hardest work you've ever done," I told them frankly. "Double shifts, late nights, endless practice. Some of you might want to leave, and I'll write glowing recommendations if you do. But if you stay," I smiled, "you'll be part of culinary history." To my amazement, not a single person left. They'd seen how I treated my staff. Like family, better than my actual in-laws had ever treated me. They trusted me, and that trust was about to pay off. The next few months were a blur of activity, all conducted under absolute secrecy. The restaurant designer I'd called, Marcus, worked after hours, transforming our cozy dining room into something spectacular. We replaced every table, chair, and light fixture. The walls were redone in hand-painted murals depicting the fusion of Eastern and Western culinary traditions. The kitchen was completely reorganized and equipped with state-of-the-art equipment. My old mentor, Chef Jacques, flew in from Paris twice a month to help refine our techniques and train my staff. Together, we revolutionized every recipe on the menu, elevating each dish while maintaining the soul of the original concept. We weren't just making food, we were creating edible art. But the real game changer was my third call from that night, to Gordon Ramsay's team. I'd met Gordon briefly during my culinary school days, and he remembered my innovative dessert fusion that won a national competition. When I explained my situation and my vision, he was intrigued enough to get involved. The plan was simple but ambitious. Gordon would feature Fusion Garden in a special episode of his new streaming series about revolutionary restaurants. But first, we had to become revolutionary. For 6 months, we operated on 2 tracks. During regular hours, we maintained our usual service, though with gradually increasing prices and limited availability of reservations. Richard continued his undercover visits, taking notes and looking smug. Victoria's blogger friends kept coming in, posting lukewarm reviews about our decent but uninspired offerings. But after hours, we were building something extraordinary. My staff trained relentlessly. Every dish was deconstructed and rebuilt. Every service pattern was choreographed to perfection. We weren't just preparing food, we were creating an experience. James watched all this with a mixture of pride and concern. "Are you sure about this?" he'd ask, seeing me return home exhausted at 3 a.m. "You don't have to prove anything to them." "This isn't about proving something," I'd reply. "This is about becoming something." Finally, after 6 months of preparation, we were ready. The restaurant closed for 2 weeks for renovations. Victoria immediately posted about how this was the beginning of the end for Fusion Garden. Richard was overheard at his country club betting on how long before we went bankrupt. Perfect. The night of our reopening, I made sure the Whittakers received a special invitation. Elizabeth's RSVP came back with a note about how they were so concerned about our struggles and would of course support family in difficult times. They arrived as a group: Richard, Elizabeth, Victoria, and several of their society friends. James met them at the door, playing his part perfectly. "Maya's in the kitchen," he said, sounding worried. "She's been acting strange lately." They sat at the best table, already smirking, ready to witness what they assumed would be my humiliation. Then the show began. The new Fusion Garden was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Each dish was a theatrical presentation of flavor and technique. Dim sum that levitated on magnetic plates, Soup served in hand-blown glass spheres that dissolved when touched. Traditional Chinese dishes deconstructed and rebuilt with molecular gastronomy techniques. And in the middle of service, right on cue, Gordon Ramsay walked into the kitchen. The dining room went silent as he emerged a few minutes later, sampling dishes, nodding approvingly. Camera crews captured everything, including the Whittakers' increasingly pale faces. This, Gordon announced to the cameras, is the future of fusion cuisine. Chef Maya has created something extraordinary here. Michelin should be calling any day now. Elizabeth's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Victoria's phone livestream suddenly went quiet. Richard's face had turned that interesting shade of red again. Then I emerged from the kitchen, no longer in chef's whites, but in a designer dress, followed by some of the most renowned food critics in New York. They'd all been there incognito, scattered throughout the dining room. "The property offers are no longer necessary, Richard," I said quietly, stopping at their table. "Fusion Garden isn't for sale. In fact, we're expanding. That empty building next door, the one you've been trying to buy for years. I closed on it this morning. We're opening a culinary school. You can't." Richard sputtered. "Oh, and Elizabeth?" I continued. "Those reservations you've been trying to make under different names. We're booked solid for the next year. But don't worry, I've saved a permanent table for my family." I smiled sweetly. "Right next to the kitchen, where you can smell everything, but taste like anything." The episode aired 3 months later. Fusion Garden became the hottest reservation in New York overnight. We earned our first Michelin star within 6 months, with rumors of a second on the way. The culinary school opened, focusing on fusion cuisine and innovative techniques. The Whittakers? They still come in sometimes, sitting at their assigned table by the kitchen, watching as I live my dream. Victoria's followers love her posts about her talented sister-in-law. Elizabeth brags at her social clubs about how she always saw my potential. Richard even offered to invest in my next venture. I declined, of course. Some things, like self-respect and true passion, are worth more than money or social status. My grandmother taught me that, along with her recipes that started this whole journey. James and I are expecting our first child now. Yesterday, I felt the baby kick while I was developing a new dessert menu. I placed my hand on my belly and whispered, "Remember this, little one. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right." The kitchen timer dings, and I have to go. There's a new fusion dish I'm working on, combining my grandmother's secret Chiao Long Bao recipe with a French soufflé technique. The critics will love it. But more importantly, I love it. And in the end, that's what makes anything truly worthless or priceless, not what others say about it, but what you know it's worth. As I head back to my kitchen, I pass the Whittakers' table. It's empty tonight, but the reservation sign is still there, a small reminder of how far I've come. Some might call it petty, keeping that table as a monument to their disdain. I call it seasoning, that extra pinch of satisfaction that makes success taste even sweeter.
Hi, I'm Jessica Chen, and this is the story of how my husband's wealthy family learned that money isn't everything, especially when you underestimate the wrong person. I met Marcus at a small coffee shop where I worked while pursuing my computer engineering degree. He was different from the usual suited executives who barely looked at me while ordering their expensive lattes. Despite coming from one of the city's wealthiest families, Marcus would sit at the counter and actually talk to me about technology, coding, and my dreams of starting my own software company. "You're different," he said one day, watching me debug code on my laptop during my break. Most people here just see me as the heir to Wong Enterprises. You see me as just Marcus. I smiled, closing my laptop. That's because money doesn't impress me. Ideas do, dreams do. A romance blossomed naturally, hidden from his family's judgmental eyes. Marcus knew they wouldn't approve. They had a list of suitable heiresses for him to choose from. But love doesn't follow present paths. When Marcus finally told his parents about us, the explosion was nuclear. A coffee shop girl, with a community college degree, his mother, Eleanor Wong, practically spat the words during our first dinner together. She sat at the head of their massive dining table, wearing jewelry that probably cost more than my entire education. Actually, I'm completing my computer engineering degree, I corrected her politely. And it's a state university, not a community college. Same difference, she dismissed with a wave of her manicured hand. Marcus needs someone who understands our world, our social obligations, not some scholarship case. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. Mother Jessica is brilliant. She's developing innovative software that could revolutionize. Enough. Harold Wong, Marcus's father, slammed his hand on the table. No son of mine will marry beneath his station. End this foolishness now. But Marcus didn't end it. Instead, he proposed the next day, and we had a small private ceremony at City Hall. His parents refused to attend. You'll regret this, Eleanor warned him. She'll show her true colors soon enough. Despite his family's disapproval, we were happy. Marcus supported my studies while I finished my degree, and I started developing my software on the side. We lived in a modest apartment, avoiding his family's social circles and focusing on building our life together. Then I got pregnant. The news should have been joyous. Instead, it set off a chain of events that would change everything. A baby changes things, Eleanor announced, suddenly appearing at our door one day when Marcus was at work. Perhaps we were hasty in our judgment. She invited us to move into the family mansion. Marcus was thrilled, seeing it as a chance to reconcile with his family. I was hesitant, but I wanted our child to know their grandparents, so we moved in. That's when the real nightmare began. Eleanor's acceptance was a carefully crafted trap. She began hosting elaborate parties, parading me in front of their social circle like a circus act. Isn't it charming? She'd say. Our Marcus, so charitable, giving a chance to someone from her background. I endured it all for Marcus's sake, but then I overheard a conversation that chilled me to my core. The girl is becoming a problem, Eleanor told Harold in his study. She's actually trying to patent some software she's developed. Imagine the embarrassment if Marcus's wife starts peddling computer programs like a street vendor. The prenup will protect Marcus's interests, Harold assured her. And once the baby is born. Yes, Eleanor's voice turned cold. Once we have our grandchild, we can deal with the gold digger appropriately. I rushed back to our room, heart pounding. The next day, I discovered they'd been working behind the scenes. My patent application had been mysteriously delayed. My university records showed an investigation into academic irregularities. They were systematically destroying my credibility. When I confronted Marcus, his response shattered my world. You're being paranoid, Jessica, he sighed, not looking up from his phone. Pregnancy hormones are making you irrational. Mother is trying her best to welcome you into our world. Your mother is trying to destroy me. I shouted, showing him the patent interference documents I'd uncovered. Those are just standard legal procedures, he dismissed. Maybe if you'd stop trying to prove yourself and just accept your place in this family. My place? I whispered, finally seeing him clearly. You mean beneath you? Like your mother always said. Before he could respond, Eleanor burst into the room, waving her tablet. How dare you, she shrieked, arguing with my son in his own home, causing him stress with your wild accusations? What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Eleanor clutched her chest dramatically, stumbling. My heart? The stress. She's trying to kill me. Marcus rushed to his mother while Harold appeared from nowhere, pointing at me with rage. Get out. Get out of this house now. Marcus, I pleaded, but he wouldn't even look at me, too busy attending to his mother's theatrical performance. Security guards appeared, escorting me out with just my purse and the clothes on my back. As the massive doors slammed behind me, I heard Eleanor's miraculous recovery, her voice carrying clearly. Finally. Now we can protect our grandchild from that gold digger's influence. I stood there, 5 months pregnant, watching the sun set behind the mansion I foolishly thought could become my home. But I wasn't broken. I was angry. What they didn't know was that I'd seen this coming. I'd been preparing, and I had an ace up my sleeve, one that would make them regret ever underestimating the coffee shop girl. As I walked away from the mansion, my phone buzzed with a text message that would change everything. Ms. Chen, this is David Zhang, Marcus's business partner. We need to talk. There's something you should know about Wong Enterprises and your software. Standing there, one hand on my belly where my baby grew, I smiled. They thought they'd won, but the game was just beginning. The next morning would bring revelations that would shake the Wong family to its core. That night, I met David Zhang at a small, discreet restaurant downtown. Unlike the Wong family's usual flashy establishments, this was a quiet place where serious conversations could happen without interruption. David was already waiting when I arrived, his usually immaculate suit slightly rumpled, suggesting he'd come straight from the office. He stood as I approached, pulling out a chair for me. "Thank you for meeting me, Jessica," he said, his expression grave. "I've been wanting to talk to you for months, but the Wongs, they have eyes everywhere." I sat down carefully, one hand protectively on my baby bump. "What's this about, Mr. Zhang? And why now?" He pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. "Take a look at this. It might seem familiar." My heart stopped as I scrolled through the documents. On the screen was my software, the project I'd been working on for years. But it wasn't just my code. It had been modified, expanded, and was now being prepared for launch as Wong Enterprises' newest product. "They stole my work," I whispered, anger building in my chest. David nodded grimly. "Not just stole it. They've built their entire new digital division around your framework. That standard legal procedure blocking your patent. It was so they could file their own patent first. But how did they?" I stopped, realization dawning. "Marcus. He had access to my laptop, my files." "Marcus is just a puppet." David leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Eleanor and Harold have been running the company into the ground with outdated strategies. They needed a win. Your software was their salvation. But they couldn't bear the thought of owing their success to the coffee shop girl." I remembered all the times Marcus had asked about my project, showing sudden interest in the technical details. How Eleanor had insisted I use the superior computer in their home office. They'd been gathering my work piece by piece. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked David. "You're their business partner." He smiled grimly. "Partner? More like their latest target. I built the Asian market division from nothing. Now that it's profitable, they're trying to push me out too. Just like they did to you." He pulled out another document, a contract. "But I've got something they don't know about. 20 years ago, Harold's father gave me special voting shares. In writing. If combined with other shareholders, these shares could force a board review." My mind raced with possibilities. "And what do you want from me?" "Justice," he said simply. "Your software is revolutionary, Jessica. But they're implementing it wrong. Their shortcuts will make it vulnerable. When it fails, and it will fail, thousands of businesses will be compromised." I sat back, processing this information. "So you want to stop them?" "I want to help you take back what's yours," he corrected. "And in the process, maybe we can save Wong Enterprises from itself." Over the next few hours, David laid out everything. The Wong family's perfect image was a facade. Their fortune was built on taking credit for others' innovations. My software wasn't the first thing they'd stolen, just the most recent. "There's more," David said, pulling out one final document. "Remember that prenup they made you sign? The one Marcus said was just a formality?" I nodded, my throat tight. "It has a clause about intellectual property. Any IP developed during the marriage belongs to both parties equally. When they stole your software, they actually gave you a legal claim to half of its value." I laughed bitterly. "They'll have the best lawyers in the country." "Yes," David smiled. "But we have something better. We have proof." And he paused dramatically. "We have your backup files." My head snapped up. "What?" "That day you came to my office 6 months ago to discuss cloud storage solutions, I noticed you uploaded something to a secure server. I've kept it safe, untouched, original timestamps intact." Tears welled in my eyes as I remembered. I'd been so careful, so paranoid about backing up my work. That paranoia had just saved me. Here's what we're going to do, David continued, outlining a plan that would make Eleanor's head spin. But we need to move fast. They're announcing the software launch at the annual shareholders meeting next week. I placed both hands on my belly, feeling my baby kick as if in agreement. I'm ready. The next week was a blur of preparation. David's lawyers worked around the clock, preparing documents. Tech experts analyzed my original code against Wong Enterprises' stolen version, documenting every theft. But the real masterstroke came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Wong. A timid voice called me 3 days before the shareholders meeting. It was Amy, Eleanor's personal assistant. I have something you should see. She handed me a USB drive, hands shaking. I've worked for Mrs. Wong for 15 years. The things I've seen, the people she's destroyed. I can't do it anymore. Everything's on here. Every email, every hidden document, every secret meeting. I knew it must have cost her to do this. Thank you, Amy. She hesitated at the door. Make it count. The morning of the shareholders' meeting dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully in a conservative black maternity dress, my hair pulled back professionally. David met me at his office. Ready? He asked, helping me out of the car. I nodded, squaring my shoulders. More than ready. As we walked into Wong Enterprises headquarters, employees stopped and stared. News of my dramatic exit from the Wong mansion had spread. No one expected to see me here. We rode the elevator to the top floor, where the boardroom was already filling with shareholders. Through the glass walls, I could see Eleanor holding court, Marcus at her side like an obedient schoolboy. The moment we walked in, silence fell. Security. Eleanor shrieked, half rising from her chair. Remove this woman immediately. I wouldn't do that, David's voice cut through the room. Not unless you want to explain to the shareholders why you're removing someone who owns half of today's big announcement. Harold's face turned purple. What nonsense is this? I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. Before you launch my software as your own, perhaps we should discuss the original source code and the rather interesting emails planning its theft. Marcus went pale. Eleanor's perfectly made-up face contorted with rage. But before they could speak, the screens around the room flickered to life. Side-by-side comparisons of my original code and their stolen version appeared. Emails detailing their plan to block my patent. Security footage of Marcus copying files from my laptop late at night. And finally Eleanor's own voice. Once we have the code, get rid of the girl. Marcus can find a suitable wife later. The software is what matters. The room erupted in chaos. But I wasn't done yet. As chaos erupted in the boardroom, Eleanor tried to regain control. These are obviously fabricated documents. She shouted over the murmuring shareholders. This woman is trying to extort our family. I smiled calmly, remembering all the times she dismissed me as just a coffee shop girl. Fabricated? I pressed a button on my tablet. Like these surveillance videos from your home office? The ones showing Marcus copying my files at your direction. The screens switched to crystal clear footage. Eleanor's face went from red to white as she watched herself instructing Marcus, pointing at my laptop. Or perhaps, I continued, these bank transfers, the ones showing payments to delay my patent application. Emmy kept very detailed records, Mrs. Wong. At the mention of her assistant's name, Eleanor's composure cracked completely. You treacherous little. Mother, stop. Marcus finally spoke up, but I cut him off. No, Marcus, you don't get to play peacemaker now. Not after what you did. I turned to address the shareholders directly. Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to vote on launching a software platform that was stolen from its original creator, me. A platform that, due to rushed and improper implementation, has critical security flaws. David stepped forward, distributing documents to the board members. Our technical team has identified 17 major vulnerabilities in their current version. If launched, it would expose client data to significant risks. One of the older board members, a distinguished woman I recognized as Patricia Chen, no relation, stood up. Mr. Zhang, are you vouching for these claims? I am, David replied firmly, and I'm exercising my special voting rights to call for an immediate leadership review. Harold slammed his fist on the table. You have no such rights. Actually, he does. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Everyone turned to see an elderly man entering. Harold's father, Richard Wong, the company's founder. I had never met him, but David had reached out to him last week, sharing everything we'd uncovered. Richard had been living in semi-retirement, trusting his son to run the company ethically. Our evidence had brought him back. "Father," Harold stammered. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," Richard cut him off. "I understand that you and Eleanor have betrayed everything this company stands for. Stealing from a pregnant woman, destroying careers to cover your tracks." He turned to me. "Mrs. Wong, on behalf of the company I built, I apologize." Eleanor wasn't finished. She played her last card. "Marcus, tell them she trapped you with that baby. Tell them." "Enough," Marcus shouted, surprising everyone. He walked over to stand beside me. "The baby is mine, and Jessica is my wife, and everything she's saying is true. His voice broke. I helped steal her work. I betrayed her trust, because I was too weak to stand up to you, Mother." The room fell silent. Patricia Chen stood again. "I move for an immediate vote on leadership change and project review." "Seconded," came multiple voices. What happened next was like watching a decades-old empire crumble in minutes. The vote was unanimous. Harold and Eleanor were removed from their positions pending a full investigation. Richard Wong was reinstated as interim CEO. "Mrs. Wong," Richard addressed me, "would you be willing to work with our technical team to properly implement your software? With full credit and compensation, of course." I placed a protective hand on my belly. "I have a counter-proposal." Over the next hour, I outlined my vision, a new division within Wong Enterprises focused on ethical innovation and developer support, a place where ideas would be nurtured, not stolen, where credit would be given where due. "And I want David Zhang as my co-director," I finished. "His integrity helped expose this situation. That's the kind of leadership this company needs." Richard smiled. "Done." As the meeting adjourned, Eleanor and Harold were escorted out, their access badges disabled. Marcus approached me hesitantly. "Jessica, I know I don't deserve forgiveness." "You're right," I cut him off. "You don't. Not yet." I touched my belly again. "But this little one deserves to know their father. If you're willing to earn back trust, slowly we can discuss co-parenting arrangements." He nodded, tears in his eyes, and left quietly. 3 months later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. We named her Grace, a reminder that strength can come with mercy. Eleanor and Harold faced legal consequences for their actions, but avoided jail time in exchange for returning all stolen intellectual property to its rightful owners. Not just mine, but dozens of others they'd stolen from over the years. The software platform, properly implemented, became Wong Enterprises' most successful launch ever. Our ethical innovation division attracted brilliant minds who might have otherwise been intimidated by corporate politics. Marcus and I eventually divorced, but he became a better man and a good father to Grace. Sometimes losing everything helps you find your true self. As for me, I run my division from the same office where Eleanor once plotted to destroy me. But unlike her, I keep my door open to anyone with a good idea, regardless of their background. Last week, a young barista came to pitch her software idea. As I listened to her passionate presentation, I smiled, remembering another coffee shop girl with big dreams. "Tell me more," I said, pulling out my laptop. "And let's talk about protecting your intellectual property rights first. Because success isn't just about winning. It's about changing the game for those who come after you."